Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us here at RISMedia for our webinar series. This one is a great one. It's Do You Need an iBuyer? Or do you need a iBuyer offering, rather? The pros and cons. We've got a great panel today. I'm Casey Walton. I am RISmedia's content director. I'll be talking to this great group of folks who know much better about this topic than I do. And we are joined by none other than Aaron Castero from JB Goodwin Realtors of San Antonio Division, Brian Megliola of Coldwell Bankers Realty Community of Realtors, and Lane Hornick, co-founder of Zavvi. So speaking of Zavvi, I want to thank them, of course, for sponsoring this great webinar on this topic. Who better to sponsor them, really, this topic. We want to get to a few things, housekeeping notes, if you will, before we start off. There is a question box in the lower right-hand corner. That's for us to communicate with you. Feel free to jump in there now and tell us where you're all from, what group you're with. And later on as we go through, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in there, and we'll certainly leave some time at the end. We'll also, have a giveaway at the end that we'll discuss later. But with that, I do want to turn it over to Lane, who is our sponsor and has a lot to offer on this topic. So it's all yours, Lane.
Hey, thanks, Casey. Pleasure to be here and to talk about this topic. I think it's a hot topic, and I think as we peel it back, there's more to it, more nuances, underneath the title there. But look forward to talking about it with Aaron and Brian and really digging in. At Zavvi, we really believe that the agent should stay at the center of the transaction. That's our where we come from. We think the consumer deserves and wants a great agent, but they want that agent to bring all the options for selling and buying in the modern marketplace to the table. So when we think about that at Zavvi, if you go ahead and give me a click, thanks. What are these options for buying and selling? On the buy side, you've got the standard mortgage transaction, potentially backed with a home warranty, mortgage finance. Now you've got cash offers. You can arm a buyer to become a cash buyer, level the playing field, make them look like an iBuyer. And also a new group of companies, homeownership accelerators, folks like Divvy and Halo and Land. It's very exciting what they're doing, getting people into homeownership faster. We all believe in that. It's a game changer for folks in their life. On the sell side, of course, you can go open market. You might amend that, append that with a listing concierge solution to prep the house before you go to the market. Of course, you've got the modern buy before you sell bridge, where they can buy before they worry about selling their existing home, and then instant sale from the iBuyer. So it's really a varied solution set. And what we do at Zavvi is we put all that in one place. If you don't mind clicking, we work with partners on all fronts, and we put it all underneath a brokerage's brand. So we're the easy button for an agent. They can walk into a living room and say, hey, I can sell or buy. You can sell or buy with me in a lot of different ways. I'm going to help you through the process. I'm going to consult. I'm going to tell you the advantages, disadvantages, but I'm here to help you no matter which path you choose. And by the way, it's getting a little trickier out there to unlock transactions. I'm also a broker owner myself, and the pie is staying pretty fixed right now, the transactional pie. And so when you look at this group of solutions, these are keys to unlock a transaction. And we've got to be creative. We've got to be, as professionals and practitioners, we've got to be creative problem solvers. So at Zavvi, we put all that in one place and make you look good as an agent and help you solve problems and unlock transactions. So great to be here to sponsor. We've got some great partners, including both Aaron and Brian on the platform, but here's just a sampling of the broker partners around the country that are using the Zavvi platform under their brand very effectively. So great to be here. Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Lane. Great overview. Really great to see all of those different buckets of this topic. You know, so often it seems like it's just the transactional front, the ease and speed of it. But with that, I want to move into sort of where we are today in iBuying. Certainly, it's a lot different than it was 2 years ago, and I'm sure the accelerator was really pressed last year. So I would love for each of you to sort of talk about that from your own context. You know, Brian and Eric, of course, Aaron, that is, of course, and then Lane, more from an overview. And Brian, I'll go to you first. You know, how have you seen it evolve in your business, and where would you say it is now in terms of the pie?
Sure, thanks. And again, thank you for having me. You know, I've gone to a lot of events, things like this around the country, and I appreciate that you're taking sort of the non-football city, smaller market, and letting us kind of show how we're doing it in our area as well. So thank you for that. So iBuying, there really was not an option for iBuying in my market at all. But I felt as a broker, we needed to be ready for the fact either an iBuyer is coming or just find a way to do it ourselves and master it so that when another company does come in the area, we've already established ourselves. So, you know, we jumped on the program and we were able to implement some stuff, which I'll go into probably a little bit, a little down the road. But for us, locally, there was no iBuying market. So this gave me a platform to build my own iBuying program.
Terrific.
I'll leave it at that unless you want me to elaborate.
No, that's great. That's great. And I may follow up with you on that, but I would love to get everyone's perspective. And then maybe before we move on to the next topic, I may hit you back on one point in particular. So Aaron, on to you.
I love it. So my company, JB Goodwin, we are in San Antonio and Austin, and iBuyers are a constant conversation topic for us. We are that football arena there, Brian, that it's pretty prevalent. So it started out for us, iBuying was something we were just coaching our agents against. It was actually a relatively easy coach. You know, they were charging 12% fees. If our agent was educated enough to have the conversation with a consumer to make them understand not just that top dollar an iBuyer was offering, but what that looked like for their family's investment in the long run, we could coach past that iBuyer anytime and not lose a listing to it or not remain at the center of the transaction. But that changed pretty quickly, and we had to pivot pretty quickly that all of a sudden we were losing listing opportunities, both to an intense amount of marketing in our market, and that first sign hit the yard, and then other sellers started hearing about it, so they hit our market really quickly, but also their business model changed, and it wasn't as easy to coach past why that wasn't the better solution for a family and their investment. So we had to look at opportunities for competing and making sure that our agent stayed at the center of the conversation. So we ended up really shifting pretty quickly to take a proactive approach to be able to offer that solution even before our seller might mention it, to make sure that we didn't lose that opportunity accidentally when they passed a billboard on their way home, got curious and called. So we took a proactive approach, and it's very much a piece of the pie now and a consistent part of our market.
Lane, more from a holistic market view, where's it gone over the past couple of years?
Yeah, it's gone nationwide. To quote ZZ Top, you know, when you think about the Mark Twain quote, "Rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated," that might apply to iBuying here. You know, Zillow pulled out of the market. Everyone thought, "Ooh, that's the death of iBuying." No, OfferPad, Opendoor have continued to expand. Opendoor announced this week that they're in Boston. By the way, 2 years ago, everyone said there's no way the iBuyers will ever go to the Northeast. Well, they're there. They also opened in Cincinnati. A year or two ago, people said they'll never go to the Midwest. Houses are too old. No, they're there. And Albuquerque, New Mexico, you know, a non-football market. So, you know, and it's not just OfferPad and Opendoor. There's other institutional buyers that we partner with that are growing their deal flow. And I think Aaron really characterized it. You know, do you fight it or do you co-opt it? And you know, Brian has stood up his own iBuying program because it's a great way to cement the relationship with your client and attract new clients. Aaron has co-opted the solution because that's a way to keep her client. And frankly, for some consumers, iBuying is a great solution. For a segment of the market, it's a great solution. And what people don't realize is the client will pay Aaron's agent a listing commission to represent them in the sale to an iBuyer.
Right. And, I said I might come back to you, Brian, and this is going to be a question for both you and Aaron, because you both sort of alluded to it. But first of all, Brian, you no competition in your market initially. Is it gotten to the point now where some clients are actually asking for it, or is it still more of an educational process for you?
No, we definitely have clients calling in and looking for that quick sale part. There's so many different reasons people sell homes, and a lot of people do not want to go down that traditional market plan. They don't want to. A lot of the ones we see is family inheriting properties. They live all over the place. They don't want to put $20,000-$30,000 into a house, so they just want to sell it. They just want to make it gone. So that's a real common one that we see. But it's also just a great conversation. I've had conversations with people about iBuying, and the next thing we know, we're listing their house on the regular market. So it's just a way to start a conversation. And the more opportunities your agents have to go to this listing table and show them all the different ways that they can sell their home, it's just an educated agent and an opportunity for a seller to make the decision that's best for them in that time.
And Aaron, how about you? Are they knocking on your door for it, or is it more of an educational process?
They're absolutely knocking on our door for it. It's on the radio, it's on commercials, it's on billboards here on our drive home, on our commute home. So it's very much out there. It's signs in the yard. So our consumers are certainly curious about it. But again, from a proactive approach, it's a really powerful tool for our agents to unlock business that sellers know right now in our market they have more equity than they've ever had, but they're worried about the buy or being in this buyer's market and the stress involved. So it is a really powerful tool for us to take a proactive approach and market some of these solutions that make the overall process less stressful for a seller to make that move.
Terrific.
If I can just add in real quick.
Absolutely.
If I can just add in real quick. I was in a position where I didn't have any iBuying options. There weren't any competitors for it. I went to banks. I talked about banks being able to start doing it in my market, and they weren't interested. And there's no way I could go back and just create my own software or fund it all myself. And the HomeVestor, I do it through a company called HomeVestors on the Zavvy platform. That gave me a turnkey within 3 to 6 months. I had a fully set up iBuying option for all my agents, and also the benefits of recruiting too, and being able to go talk to agents in our area that they've heard about iBuying. They know people want to do it. They don't have any other information about it. Now it's a great recruiting tool for me to let these agents know that if you come work with our brokerage, now you have the full options for sellers. So just I want to add that in.
No, that's a great segue to this next piece, which is the business models. And I think that actually is part of that. And Brian, I'll stick with you, and I'll move to Aaron next. And then, of course, talk to Lane about, how he's serving his clients to meet their specific needs. But, without drawing the sort of org chart, where does this fit into the business, mechanically?
Yeah, well, for me, I needed a platform to do it. When I got onto the Zavvy platform, I saw that there was an option for HomeVestors, which HomeVestors is the nation's largest buying group. And I was able to then communicate with them. I ended up buying a franchise of HomeVestors. So within a 3-month period, I went from going onto the Zavvy platform, franchising with HomeVestors, and it's been phenomenal. I've gone on, I think the first month we had 20 leads. We ended up putting 3 or 4 of those under agreement, and then we had 4 listings from that as well. So almost 50% of the calls that I got resulted in a iBuying option purchase that will rehab the house, and then my agent's going to go sell that. My agents also know that they can come to me and say, hey, if there's a house that we'd like to buy, I implement the HomeVestor platform. We buy that house. I pay that agent, keeping that agent in the center of the transaction. They're getting also funded through Zavvy. They're getting some money back through there too. And then they list the house once it's flipped and ready to go. But then we also, like I said, we've had 4 listings out of 20 phone calls that have turned into listings. So it's a lead generation machine as well. So it's recruiting, it's retention, it's lead generation.
Terrific. Aaron, how about your model? What is it? I know it's different than Brian, so I would love to get a little bit more into how the sausage is made, so to speak.
Certainly. So as I mentioned previously, ours came from a position of need, honestly. We realized that we needed to have this option both for overcoming losing the business to it and the proactive approach of gaining business. So originally I started finding those individual companies with offerings, and I started partnering with some of our iBuying companies directly, and then some of these modern bridges that also fall under the Zavvy umbrella. And very quickly it became daunting for my agents to keep up with. I was constantly having to come up with education. It was a lot to keep straight, and I was even having a hard time keeping it all straight. And our agents were losing confidence in the ability to sell those options because of the education and that need. So we shifted. We called a couple of folks we respect in other markets and said, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And they introduced us to Zavvy. So with Zavvy, we were able to white label it versus my agent having to understand every single tool available and exactly what the fee is and how it works. We have one, we call ours the JB Goodwin Easy Move program. It's white labeled, so it's from a recruiting standpoint and a retention standpoint, it's very much a, hey, we offer this to our agents, but obviously it's backed and driven by what Zavvy's created. So our agents just have one platform they can go to in their JB Goodwin tools where they can find access to all of these things. They don't have to know all the details. They just need to say, hey, I have a buyer, hey, I have a seller, or somebody who needs to do both, and the system tells them what their options are. So when they go into a listing presentation or they're meeting with buyers and trying to figure out how to incorporate the iBuyer in the system, really makes it a lot easier and eliminates some stress in the education.
Terrific. Lane, you must have, I'm sure you're meeting clients that are from one end to the other. Tell us a little bit more about what you're seeing, what's more ubiquitous among your clients, and some of the other services that may not, that for folks that may not want what Brian has or what Aaron has. Maybe they want a different, more custom, bespoke solution.
Yeah, I think there's been a progression from one, Zavvy, we started with the iBuyers because that was the one sort of prevalent new solution. And some people really had an antagonistic relationship or bias toward the iBuyers. And then, there's been this evolution of, hey, the iBuyers are not all bad. They're not, they're actually here to serve a segment of the population. They work with realtors every day, but the evolution has been these new offerings, power buying, and now homeownership accelerators, and it's really becoming a rich solution set in this modern market. And Aaron nailed it. Agents are just trying to keep their deals under contract and get to the closing table. They do not have time to be studying the who got funded, who opened in this market, what's their offering, how's it different than that offering, and also, with my broker owner hat on, I want all this to be under my brand. I don't really want my agents all wandering around, going, having to form their own relationships. I want them. That's what the value I bring as a broker. Hey, I put this all in one place for you. I've got a strategy for this shifting market. The market is shifting. I have a strategy to help you unlock transactions and make it through this market shift. That's really valuable as a brokerage if you can bring that. And so what we've done at Zavvy is just made that super easy. Not everybody's got the fortitude that Brian has to actually put his own capital up and put it at risk. I mean, he's having to do that because they're not in his markets.
Right.
But it's worked really well for him. But the bulk of our broker partners, we just create their program and package it up and put it under their brand, and it takes just a couple of weeks. So to think about that, you go from not having a strategy for this shifting market, this modern market, to in 2 weeks you have it. Now, you've got to get people adopting it, and that's with everything in real estate. So there's nothing unique. I wish we had the magic bullet for adoption and I could wave my magic wand. But whoever's got that, let me know. I'll pay lots of money for that. But again, agents, I'm really proud of agents in our industry. They are adapting. They're street fighters. They're the ultimate street fighters. When they see things working, they adapt and use it.
Speaking of that adapting, and I'm going to go back to you on this, Brian. Are you getting competition now in this space, or are folks now leaning in where they once weren't, a year or two ago in your market?
In terms of competitor, other iBuying programs?
Yeah. Are you still the only game in town?
Yeah. I mean, this is all new. I mean, like Lane just said, we literally in a month we turned on. Zavvy had all these platforms. We don't have all the big iBuying ones, but now we've already built a platform. We already have the Homevestor into there. So we already have our own internal iBuying program. As soon as one of those other iBuyer programs comes in, I don't even need to do anything. It's just going to show up into my Zavvy platform. So now when my agents sit at the listing table, they've got 3 options to, or 2 options to sell that house right away for a seller if that's what they want to do. Lane also just talked about agents adapting with the market shifts, and I gotta say we use some of the buying side of it. Programs like Easy Knock, which I knew a little bit about, but to go out and build that relationship, we don't have time for that. And suddenly now, all of a sudden, I sit down with my agents and say, hey, we also in the Zavvy platform, if you have someone who needs to buy a house but they got to sell theirs first, now they can sell it to Easy Knock. You're going to get a commission as an agent. Then Easy Knock's going to rent that house back to that person for up to 12 months while they have the cash in hand to go buy another house in this crazy market. Now they're a cash buyer. And then, also, by the way, once they move out of that house, Easy Knock's going to hire you to sell that house. So your agents are making money on both sides of that and giving their clients a better experience. I mean, it's like a win-win.
Yeah, Casey, I'd love to pony off of something even Lane mentioned, because he mentioned a magic wand, and I will say a lot of our agent partners have described this option as a magic wand. But I want to make sure to say, for brokers considering these options, it's not as daunting as it seems. It's an extra slide in our listing presentation, and it's an extra slide in our buyer's presentation that our agent partners know that they can use that little magic wand to overcome objections. So regardless, we know it's to get a buyer or seller to feel comfortable moving forward. We need to figure out what's holding them up, what's the objection. And these tools, whether it's I need to unlock the equity, whether it's my house smells like smoke, whatever, the reason they don't want folks coming in or can't make a move, that magic wand gives our agents the confidence to say, hey, I have a tool for that. Though quite often, just as several of us have described, it means they're still going open market, but it keeps our clients from wandering around trying to research all of these options on their own before coming back to us. So we become the trusted resource that regardless of what that objection is that's rattling around, they'll have an open conversation with our agent partner about it so they can move forward.
That's another great segue to our next section. And Brian set me up for the last one, Aaron this time. And it's the entree of this entire webinar, which is we're going to go into pros and cons. And certainly we've covered a little bit of both, but let's really dive in to that. And Aaron, I'll stick with you, on a more granular level, because you mentioned the broker who's thinking about this, and that's ultimately what this webinar, I think, is for, that or people who are just still maybe dipping their toes into it. Let's drill into these pros. Why is having this offering so beneficial to a broker?
Because it gives our agents confidence regardless of the situation. I will say from our agent partners, I've had nothing but positive feedback. I'll touch on the one little con, which is barely a con. I had to come up with something to have something for the con section.
Yeah,
so I'm all pros when it comes to it. It's powerful tools for our agent partners. They feel empowered. It is a huge recruiting tool for me. Man, I talked about throwing it into a listing presentation, a buyer's presentation for our agents, but it's in my presentation to recruits who are asking about the brokerage, to be able to say we are state of the art, we're keeping up with and we're ahead of what's happening in the market and those changes, that even as changes happen, we're adapting and staying ahead of that so that they stay at the center of the transaction. Super powerful. I'm all pros.
We'll try to pull a couple of cons out here before the end of this, but Brian, I'd love to hear from you in terms of, you know, especially you're in such a unique position. I think the pros are, some probably speak for themselves, but I'm sure there's some other that you're discovering as you go along.
Yeah, I mean, definitely first off the bat, it's the pros for the seller that now we're sitting down having educational conversations because we have a platform that can show them all the different ways that they can sell their home. So that's the great part for the sellers. For me on a brokerage side, it's unlocked things that we hadn't even thought about, which is creating new ancillary incomes and new revenue streams. By building our own iBuyer program, you know, we're now purchasing homes as a brokerage through the Homevestors section on the Zavvi app, and I'm using, you know, cash from them to do it. It's really it's minimal expense out of my pocket to give these sellers an iBuying option where they didn't have one, and it's putting my agents in the center of it. They're making money on both sides of the transaction. When they bring me a seller and we purchase their home, I'm paying them for their service there. And then once we have it rehabbed and ready to sell it, we're putting it right back into that same agent's hands to sell it again. So there's pros for all sides, the seller, the brokerage, and for the agents in my eyes.
And I'm gonna stick with
and like you said, it's not worth fighting. Oh God, sorry. I was gonna say it's not worth fighting. You know, these other iBuyer programs are out there. They're going to be there. They have big advertising dollars. You know, why not be on the same side and be able to have an educational conversation with your seller and say that, yeah, they are true options, and I can absolutely help you navigate that if that's the route that you want to go. Because like I said earlier, not every seller wants to sell in the traditional way. You know.
Right, and you know, it's something you mentioned, it's something Aaron mentioned, and I want to dig into this a little bit more, and it's about recruitment and retention. It's a topic that comes up in real estate all the time, and you know, we just fielded our own research and learned that technology, besides, you know, obviously commission splits were the number one career value. Second was technology, and this is obviously a technology value proposition. So, you know, tell me about the agents who are looking for this product. Are they, you know, is it a mix of young and old, tenured and new to the industry? Is it power performers, or is it, you know, the folks on the rise? From your own perspective, obviously, and then I'd love to hear from Lane on more of a broad scope. And I'll start with you, Brian, since, you know, I just left with you.
Sure. You know, for me, I've seen agents of all levels of activity reaching out to me, and it's like, you know, Lane talked earlier about the magic wand and adoption. You know, our agents have heard about it, but it's until they sit down in a conversation with someone and they talk about iBuying, or, you know, the seller brings it up, then they come back and say, hey, I know we have this program, you know, tell me more about it. And that's how it's quickly starting to catch on, and more agents are asking questions about it. But I have literally agents who have just started in the marketplace, haven't closed a house yet. And I've got agents that are, you know, 20-year, 10-year agents that are asking me about, you know, these options, because again, sellers for all level agents are curious about the iBuying option.
That makes a lot of sense. Would you say that there's a different learning curve for those different demographics, for lack of a better term?
I don't think so, because honestly, the agents don't even have to learn a lot about it. They're literally just running the address through the Zavvi program, and it spits out every offer from all these different, you know, if there's an iBuyer in that side of that category, it's going to present the offer. So there's the educational is like, you know, click here and hit search. It's that simple.
That seems like a big pro.
Yeah,
Aaron, how
it's
about
just
you?
Reminding them which website to go to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, then maybe they're not so tech savvy after all, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Aaron.
For us, it's been adopted by agents all across the board. Really, we've tried to ingrain it in our culture. As I mentioned, from an educational standpoint, for every sales meeting, we're talking about it. We're sharing success stories to build agent confidence in our meetings. Again, we are a Zavvi partner, so it's been really easy to use. So I've literally in a sales meeting pulled it up, used an address, and said, here's how easy it is, so it can take away that fear factor. But I think it's also important to mention that stresses are a little high with interest rates being consistently in the news and us hearing about crazy numbers of offers on properties, that agents are looking for ways to eliminate their own stresses, as well as offering tools to their sellers when they're going into the market, because tensions are higher than I've experienced previously in the market when it comes to anxiety, and our sellers have access to so much information online, and some of it's not pertinent to our local market, but they're curious how it applies. So it's causing anxiety, and having this as an option is a big stress reducer. So our agents have really been excited to learn about it, even if it's just a mention to say, hey, we have this in our back pocket if we need it.
Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense. And Lane, from a broader perspective, how do you think that this really helps brokerages maintain, retain, recruit, establish themselves as a full service offering?
Yeah, I think if we look through the eyes of the consumer, right, who ultimately pays all the bills, it doesn't matter whether it's real estate or any other industry, they're looking for options and they're looking for ease of use. And what we try to do at Zavvy from a technology partner standpoint is we try to make the options and the easy button come together for both the consumer and the agent. And our goal is to make it as easy to use as, there's still people who don't use a Kayak or Expedia or what have you to book their flights, but frankly, it's more cumbersome. Anybody tried to call an airline lately? It's just easier to book online and do it yourself. And so that's what we try to do. We try to make it so much easier for the agent just to go through their brokerage's platform that it's just a no-brainer. And I love hearing from Brian that for a lot of his agents, it is a no-brainer. But I've been around the industry long enough to know that this is much more of a mindset challenge than a skill set challenge. The skill set's quite easy. You type an address in and hit the go button. The mindset is, as Larry Kendall, mentor of mine, said, hey, here's the great news, Lane. You can change your mindset today. Here's the bad news. You probably won't. And so we work a lot on mindset for agents as they enter this new market. And we work with our broker partners like Brian and Aaron to help them with that because I think it's really important that agents shift with where the consumer is going. We have to go where the consumer is going, and otherwise we'll be left behind. And so the real biggest benefit here is you protect your sphere, you protect your database because you're meeting them where they're going. They're going to go there without you, whether it's the modern day equivalent of your clients out driving around, they see the waving flags and they drive into the new construction sales office. As an agent, you could say, I'm absolutely not going to work with new construction. Those builders are just bad people. No, that would be insane, right? If I was a proponent of that, that would be insane. What you want to do is say, oh, I work with the builders. Of course I work with the builders. I know their models. I know, all these new solutions, very similar, right? You want to say, oh yeah, I know them. I know how they work. I can help you with that.
Yeah, it almost seems myopic not to give the consumer what they want. So excellent, well said, Lane and Brian and Aaron. Let's move on to, this is going to be a challenge for Aaron, so maybe we'll skip to her. We'll skip to her last. She's an advocate, but yeah, obviously, I think for any broker who's not there yet, I think they should have, maybe it's more dispelling myths of cons. There's certainly plenty of things said about iBuying that may not be fair. So maybe we should talk about that just as much as talk about some real challenges in the space or the offering within the space. And Brian, I'll start with you because again, I don't want to put Aaron on the spot quite yet, but yeah, any challenges that you've encountered or any cons that you were afraid of that you realized not so accurate actually?
Oh God, I'm gonna have to unfortunately pass it right over to Aaron. I literally couldn't think of a con for iBuying. I mean, it's kind of, it doesn't matter what we think. I mean, if sellers want to sell their house fast and they don't mind taking a discount to do it, and they want to use an iBuying option, who are we to, I can't come up with a con for that. I mean, we're helping our clients, and Lena just talked about like keeping your sphere safe. I mean, someone out there, an agent, someone who bought a house, used an agent, and now they're in a position in life where they just want to sell that house quick and take a discount. So now they're not going to call that agent. By having a platform like this, we can now have those same conversations and partner with those iBuyers and still be the center of the transaction with your sphere. So, and we can't say it's not happening, because it's happening. So yeah, I don't have a con for iBuying. It's giving the consumer what they want. And last time we didn't listen to the consumer was 15, 20 years ago. And when we thought that no one would want to look at houses online. And I think we lost that one. So
well said.
Consumer controls it for me.
Aaron, are you ready for this?
I'm ready. And I will say it's a little bit more of a misconception. We're talking about this like this is some huge life altering, changing the outlook on brokerage. And I will say that I feel that's a misconception. It's just another tool our agents have in their belt. So when I'm looking at cons, it is keeping that mindset for our agent. This isn't something you're offering to not go to market, not have the same relationship you've always had with your client. It's a tool you have to answer specific needs, like so many of our other tools. So I will say keeping that mindset for agents, that it's not the quick resource that they're utilizing, that the consumer is driving that. And then another misconception that I think people have out there about the iBuyer situation is that it is damaging that relationship, as Brian alluded to, with our clients, but it's not with our experience we're having. We're coaching them through those contracts and the next step, and then talking about when they sell, where they're going to buy. We've not damaged that relationship at all in offering this new tool. It's only really strengthened it, that they didn't feel they had to go somewhere else looking for these options. It really strengthened that relationship. So I would say more of a misconception. So thanks for teeing that up, Casey. The con that will happen a little bit is there is still, as easy as the tools are to use in the transaction, sometimes our agents can get a little in the weeds and trying to over-educate themselves on the specifics of different companies. So that's the one thing that we've worked really hard to make sure that our agent partners know, that they're relying on those resources they have, those concierge resources they have for helping to address their clients' questions specifically. Because my real strong agents, they want to know everything about everything, so they can see any challenge coming ahead and get ahead of that challenge before it happens. And there's going to be a learning curve here, but I tell our agent partners, there's that learning curve in real estate. The market changes, interest rates change, and we have to overcome that. These programs change, so there is always going to be some adaptation needed. As Lane said, they're out on the streets fighting. So it's no more so than the other changes that they're experiencing in the market. That's the worst thing I can say. That's all I've got.
Well, it's pretty strong. That's, I think we're making a strong case for the pros. But Lynn, I'd love to hear your perspective as a broker owner and a platform provider. You must really have an interesting take on, particularly, I think, dispelling myths.
I think I actually have a top 10 myths of iBuyers, and one of the biggest is what Aaron alluded to, that they will steal your client, and that is not the case. If you show up with your client, they will honor that relationship. We've not seen that relationship not honored in thousands of transactions around the country, thousands of client-agent interactions with iBuyers, so that's just a myth. And I think if, kind of like the builders, if they don't honor that relationship, they're probably not going to be around too long. It's similar to, on the new construction side. What keeps me up a little bit at night, and that I think a lot about is home ownership. And are we increasing home ownership, decreasing it? The selling to an iBuyer itself is not decreasing home ownership if they turn around and put that home back on the market and make it available. And by the way, the smart agent who just sold the home to the iBuyer knows it's coming back around. It's essentially a preview listing for them. The smart ones go out and find a buyer for that house that you know, before the iBuyer even puts it on the market. They know the house better than anybody. That's that street fighter agent, creative deal maker. But big picture, I'm a big believer in home ownership, and I think we're in early innings. I don't think it's shaken out exactly how the ecosystem is going to look, but I think more and more of the participants in the ecosystem are real, including the iBuyers, are thinking about home ownership. Home ownership's good for anybody in the transaction business.
That makes a lot of sense, and I appreciate you guys pulling together and talking on the tough challenges that may not really exist, and that's a good thing. So, you know, I think what we want to talk about now is what's next, and obviously, you know, I know there's not necessarily cons to iBuying, but there certainly could be challenges ahead. There's certainly opportunities. So I really want to dive into that in this last segment before we open it up to our audience if they have any questions. And, you know, obviously, I believe it was Aaron who mentioned higher interest rates. It almost seems like that could be an opportunity to flush some inventory into the iBuying market. And I could be wrong on that, but certainly folks that are looking to make quicker sales would be more willing to jump into that, knowing that they may, you know, their home might sit on the market a little bit longer. Would you agree with that, Aaron? And do you see that as a potential opportunity down the road?
100%. I mean, it's really empowered our agents. You know, we're always looking for ways to motivate them to pick up the phone and call their sphere. It's a constant challenge for us as brokers, right? So first of all, it empowers our agents with unique, very specific conversation points to have with their sphere. Hey, you bought 5 years from me now, or 5 years ago, you have more equity than ever. We have some unique solutions that allow you to buy before you sell, or that can buy your home to open up that equity stress and reduce stress, and really easy social media posts, conversation topics when they're at networking events. I mean, it's really empowered our agent for a lot of the pain points that we're hearing about between interest rates rising and the anxiety of being a buyer in this competitive market. It's really addressed a lot of those pain points for us. And I know I'm dwindling a little bit into some of those other solutions on Zavvy there also, touching on those as well.
I'm sure Elaine's okay.
I know, sorry Elaine, I'm sure that's horrible for you.
Brian, would you agree? You think that could open up interest rates in more, you know, in general, and then, you know, other market headwinds could actually create more opportunity for iBuying in your market, obviously?
Oh yeah, I mean, and again, I dove into it differently where I didn't have iBuying, so I became the iBuyer.
Right.
And I can just tell you from the phone calls that I'm getting, it's in high demand. So, and the big companies know that, and they're going to keep growing as they have. So, you know, the opportunity is you could be part of it. You know, the challenge is in my case was I didn't have a way to become an iBuyer until I got onto the Zavvy program and joined with Homevestors, and then I had it. So, you know, and I mentioned earlier, I want to note on it again, like the conversations I can have now in terms of retention, recruiting, and with my agents, and then also now I'm producing leads for them as well, and they're getting opportunities to be on the transaction on multiple sides and multiple times. So it's I mean, iBuying's not going anywhere. You know, Zillow messed it up, but you know, there's other programs that are good and they're strong, and I can tell you from firsthand knowledge, even in a small market, there's a huge demand for people wanting to sell their houses quick. You know, even look at the market right now where people might have offers on houses, and it's so hard to put contingencies about selling your house. You know, I've got people all the time to say, you know, I'll sell it for $15,000 less to just have it gone tomorrow because I need to go close on this next house. So it gives you options to adapt to what's happening in the market right now. So, you know, for me, it's just I took the fact there was no iBuyer here, and I made it a huge opportunity for our agents and for our sellers that now they have a new option to sell, not just the traditional way. And we can, and my trusted agents, the trusted advisors that they have, are still the center of that. So huge opportunity for us.
Yeah, I would say Zillow screwed up the narrative, not necessarily the marketplace, right? And that's mostly for folks, you know, it's inside baseball narrative. You know, that's not necessarily the consumer seeing it that way. Lane, what are some other major opportunities you see ahead in the market?
I mean, the big broad brush on that is we have the opportunity to all become modern brokerages and modern agents who offer a really rich solution set. It's no longer a one size fits all. This is the way you buy, this is the way you sell. There's different ways to do it, and those ways appeal to different segments of the consumer base. It's someone who wants to take an iBuyer offer, may not be the right fit for a buy before you sell bridge or a open market with listing concierge. They're different people. So why would we expect everybody to behave the same? And that's a real opportunity for the professional. That's a real opportunity when things get more complicated and there's more choices and the risks and the stakes are so high. That's a great time to be a realtor, a good one. An informed one, not someone who's unaware of all these solutions, but someone who knows them, someone who is hanging their license with Aaron or Brian. They're going to crush it. They're going to take share in this market ahead, and so that's exciting. It's a big opportunity.
I think that's tremendously accurate, and it is exciting. I think we're really at a pivot point in the industry. But right now this is ancillary, and I think it's safe to say at least for another generation or 5, it's going to remain ancillary. But how big can that pie get? How big can iBuying get for a brokerage and the industry at whole? I'll start with you on that, Aaron. Where are you projecting this being in terms of ancillary revenue?
Ooh, that's a tough question, Casey. What I will say is it's a little hard for us to measure at this point because so often just having the iBuyer solution allows us to maintain the relationship to go to open market the way we always should have. So though I can measure a number of transactions closed with iBuyers, and that's been very successful because of those folks who have that very specific need. I need to sell in 15 days, know it's getting done, and I'm moving on or moving out, whatever that may be. I can measure that, and it's been quite measurable for our team. But what the bigger number actually is, the bigger part of our pie, is that we're in a competitive listing presentation. It's giving us the upper hand, and frankly, we're competing more than we ever were because consumers have access to information online. And then that business that just stays in our hands because the consumer didn't go out and shop iBuying online and think they were getting a better deal or whatever it may be. So it's a little hard to measure only because of that. But I can tell you in agent confidence, the conversations we're having, the adoption rate for our team to see it grow that quickly is also something that is not as easily measured, but it's been a huge return for us.
That's a really great way to frame that. And with that in mind, Brian, I'll ask you the same question, but with the asterisk Aaron offered. In terms of adoption rate and buy-in, and then overall, maybe not necessarily pinpointing transactions to it, but really, having it be part of that total journey. Where do you see this fitting into your business in the future? How significant will it be?
No, I mean, just from the first few months that we've implemented it, it's been huge. I see it as being a great ancillary income for our company, which there's some high demand on commissions, and I'm having to constantly increase those, and expenses aren't getting less. And we really had to think as a company, what other ancillary incomes can we start generating to continue to provide the high service that we give our agents? And this is a way, and it's really showing that it will be a way to keep our brokerage in a good financial state to be able to continue to offer all the services that we do. So I'm seeing it firsthand, really, really helping our company. I mean, not everyone's going to have the same results, obviously, but the biggest part is just the agents having the ability to have better, more educated conversations with their clients about what's going on, and that in itself could be great for them, especially financially.
Yeah, Lane, slightly similar, but more from the your point of view, in terms of penetration, how how close are you to, saturating the market? Not necessarily even Zavvy, but the competition to where, everybody has an offering like this, Are we close, or are we still a generation away?
Yeah, not everybody's using our platform. Some people are sort of choosing to stand up something on their own. But I am happy that Zavvy is kind of becoming that utility for folks who just want a solution. They want it quickly and they want it to be comprehensive. They don't have to build software and go spend a year forming relationships and then end up maybe it's not working. Software, last time I checked, is pretty hard to build. Widening that aperture a little bit, I think Aaron nailed it. It's the bulk of transactions will continue to be open market or plain vanilla, whatever, however you want. I don't like to use the word traditional. The bulk of transactions. So it's how many of those opportunities are you converting? How many of those opportunities are you capturing? And that's going to be the main driver of a brokerage's business, as it always has been. And then is the technology and the offering that you're giving to your agents helping them grow their business so they stay with you. Agents who are growing typically stay with you, and when they see you, a direct path of how you as a broker are helping them navigate the market. So I think that's sort of the top line. Within that, though, it's very clear that if you build a marketplace of solutions, you can monetize it, and we help brokerages do that. iBuying is a very complex business. There won't be that many folks like Brian who bite off iBuying and do it themselves. It's a complex business. There's a lot of risk in it and a lot of execution risk. Power buying, cash offers, and buy before you sell bridge is a much less complex business. So we're already seeing broker partners of ours have interest in starting to do that on their own and putting that in their marketplace. So I think we'll see some of that. But it's sort of like mortgage, in the brokerage world. Some brokers have their own mortgage company, some partner, some have a JV, some have just a market service agreement. Some don't do anything with mortgage and they focus only on their agents. Those are all right answers. And I think we'll see that with a lot of the solutions. You'll either partner or maybe you'll do, something with yourself, or you have a white label version of it. You'll see the gradations. And of course, the more you get into it, deeper you get in, the more risk you take, inherently, the more revenue you can generate. So it's a risk revenue trade-off. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer on that, but these solutions aren't going anywhere. It would be like mortgage is going away. No, you decide as a broker how you want to play in mortgage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, it seems like, from my perspective, what we've discussed here is the barrier for entry is as high as you want it to be, as is the risk versus the reward. It seems like the reward is there, regardless of how much you want is the amount of risk you're willing to take. With that, I do, I want to give folks an opportunity for questions. Nobody has weighed in yet. That probably is a testament to this wonderful panel and how many great solutions you've discussed and how many pros you've outlined. But yeah, if perhaps if the panel wants to ask each other, I'll give them the opportunity now, each other something. But otherwise, I want to move on to the giveaway.
Woohoo!
All right, so the giveaway is Get Zavvy's Modern Marketplace Report. There's the URL. It will also be emailed to everybody who registered later today. And it's a tremendous report and something that we probably only scratched the surface of what more there is to go and learn on this topic. And again, I want to thank this great panel, Brian, Aaron, and Lane, and I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. There will be a video uploaded later where you can rewatch this, or if you didn't join us, thank you for joining us not live. And with that, we are going to say goodbye and thank you from RISMedia, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.